Hatchet.
Hatchet's about a group of tourists who go on a haunted swamp tour, and when their boat sinks, they all start getting picked off one by one by the local legend known as Victor Crowley. And this is when our intelligent, thought-provoking movie begins. Now, since the movie's called Hatchet, you're probably wondering, does he use a hatchet? You're goddamn right he uses a hatchet. Once. So let's start with the pros. Special effects. I'm not saying they look realistic, I'm just saying they're fucking amazing. The effects were done by John Carl Buechler, who directed Friday the 13th Part 7 and Trolls. Oh my god! No, not that one. The kills in this movie make Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers look like they're PG-13 movies made today. But I would also say that the special effects were also calm, because sometimes you get like a bucket of blood just like thrown against a tree, as if that makes any sense. And there's even a kill in this movie that like defies laws of physics. There's like a guy who's like on the ground and he's like being ripped in half. And he's like sitting still on the ground, so the only way this would make sense is if God himself were intervening, like, yeah, fucking kill that guy. I hate him. He's a terrible actor. Speaking of acting, the acting in this movie was, but then again, this is a low-budget horror movie, and it didn't have that much money, so a lot of the stuff you see in this movie is just like the first take. They didn't have time to retake things. It was just like, alright, cut. Another pro would be with like the production design was alright. I mean, there was too much fog in some areas, and the rain just kept coming and going. That was weird. The rain seemed like it was like its own character. It just would show up and like, hey, I'm here to fuck your day up, and then it would just go away. This movie was actually shot in the desert where the Devil's Rejects was shot, and it actually looked like a swamp, so you have to give them credit for that. The kills are creative, and I won't spoil them in case you haven't seen it, but they are creative. I will say the cartoony like sound design of like all the chopping and bone popping in the face, it's cheesy, but I also love it at the same time. It's like a love-hate relationship. The backstory we get for Victor Crowley is pretty creative too, and I like it. I mean, it's simple, it's a revenge, kind of like the first Friday the 13th with the mom coming back. Except now we got this deformed guy who comes back looking for his dad. It's a pretty good story, but I think they go too far into detail in the second movie, but we're not talking about that one. We're talking about Hatchet 1. I'm gonna give this movie a lot of pros instead of cons. This movie came out when I was like 12 years old, and I remember my sister, who's older, coming home with all her friends, and they just stuck it on, and what they did was actually kind of interesting. They like assigned characters that were in the movie to represent them, so you actually cared if a character died. But that's actually not necessary for this movie, because this movie, unlike other horror movies, actually has interesting characters somewhat, especially two of them. And I don't mean like interesting, I mean like funny, and you can actually attach yourselves to them. The relationship between Ben and Marcus, it just feels real. It doesn't feel like two actors just like reading their lines to each other. It actually feels like these two people could be friends in real life. Now let's talk about the final girl in this movie. The final girl comes to the swamp because she's looking for her parents who die in the beginning of the movie, and when she finds out that her brother and father are dead, she's gonna take some revenge. That's another thing I like about this movie, is that they don't just keep running away like they do in a lot of movies where they just keep running and falling and they can't get back up and you're screaming at your screen. In this movie, they actually do fight back a few times, but sometimes they don't fight back enough. Like there's a moment where Victor Crowley's on the ground and he's like basically incapacitated, and they have a weapon in their hand, but instead they're just like, alright, this boss time, let's run away. No, how about you just finish your job and stab this shit out of his body? Not only is this a horror movie, but I would say it's a comedy horror, because there's 40 minutes in the first act after the initial open where it's just joke after joke after just, and all the jokes land for me. I mean, I watched this movie recently for like the 1,000th time, and the jokes still land. I still laugh, and they're still funny. This movie also is definitely for horror fans. I mean, it's got Freddy Krueger at the beginning, Tony Todd, and Kane Hodder himself playing Victor Crowley and the Victor Crowley's father. The score in this movie, I don't think anyone ever talks about, is, I mean, it's not iconic like Halloween or anything. The score actually feels intense in some moments where it needs to be intense, so the score does its job, but it's not like a John Carpenter thing. And at least this movie takes place in a swamp instead of just woods or a haunted mansion or something, so it's kind of different. I'll give it that. Now let's get into the cons. This movie mainly takes place at night, so therefore you're supposed to believe in every scene that the moon's like somehow lighting the scene and you can see everyone's face. But in some scenes, it just feels like there's a giant spotlight shining on them. And I've been outside enough to know that the moon does not shine that bright. But maybe it's just me, I don't know. After the initial open, it's kind of slow. You gotta like introduce your characters. But even if it's slow to some, there's still enough jokes in there to keep you interested, and it actually makes you forget that you're watching a horror movie, so then when the scares come, it actually scares you a little bit, if you're a chicken. The acting in this movie is just bad at the beginning. There's this guy, I swear to God, I bet Robert Englund next to him was like, dude, why the fuck am I working with this guy?
Moron! What the hell was I supposed to do?
For crying out loud, can we just pull over so I can finish my damn piss? Lord!
For some reason, there's only one character in this movie that has a cell phone and nobody else does. I thought 2005 people had cell phones, but nope, they don't. Another weird thing I noticed about this movie is like it's very colorful. Like every character has like a different color outfit. You got like the guy who's wearing orange and the guy wearing green. This chick who's wearing bright pink. It's just all colorful. I don't know. It's just kind of, I noticed that when I was watching it again. The way Victor Crowley enters this movie is different from like other people you'll see, like Jason, Michael, and Freddy. They don't attack all their victims at once like Victor Crowley tried to do. He just kicks open the front door and he barges in. He's just like, hey, I'm not fucking around. I'm gonna take you guys all out right now. I ain't got time to waste, alright? I gotta be somewhere. This movie was definitely made for slasher fans, so if you're a slasher fan, then I would definitely recommend you go out and buy it. But if you're not a fan of horror movies at all, then this movie's just wasted time. Have you seen Hatchet? Let me know what you thought about Hatchet in the comments below. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.